I'm Lee Jamison. I'm continuing a series of videos on my new book, Ode to East Texas. And I wanted to touch on the motivations behind the book itself, something that's deeper than just, I want people to recognize East Texas. First off, when someone is writing something that's kind of a first off for them, that for me that's a book being issued through an academic publisher, there's always a temptation, I think, to make it into the equivalent of the great American novel, as though East Texas was the most important place in all the world, and you just don't know about that yet. But in fact, if I sit back and I think about it, I don't think that East Texas is the most important place in all the world. But it is a place that is a place of significance. It is a place the story of which is worthy of being told. And it is a place worthy of that kind of exploration, worthy of your taking a look into, because there are people there, and they have stories, and they have heritage there, and that heritage comes to them through a past that has carried forward aspirations and hopes by other people. And inherent in that is a series of themes. East Texas is a place of greatness because of the human associations it contains. This means it has connections to elements of ancient themes in human narrative. That idea really infuses my painting. It's something that I see all the time. If I go into a field in the town that we lived in East Texas for 25 years, that field is immersed in a sea of human associations, of memories, of the neighbors that lived on either side. Even the grass in it means something to me because the people around me would put themselves into the improvement of the land so they could make better grass. All of this adds to the story, to the depth of character of these places to me as I paint a place. And so as I go into the process of telling the story of the place, then that also carries forward that same idea. And that idea is so strong in me as a motivation for paintings. It touches on all those paintings that I decided I would take the normal way of indexing a book and kind of turn it on its head. Instead of thinking in terms of, okay, this name you see in a certain bunch of places, and Lufkin will show up here and here and so forth. I've decided to make a thematic index, and the themes are based on these deep and ancient connections that we have with human culture. And those are things that you can see in almost any significant piece of literature. I make reference in the book itself to things like the Bible, to Mark Twain, even to the paintings of some of my hero painters, like Thomas Cole or Frederick Church, and then there are you can have musical associations as well. If you listen to one of Wagner's grand pieces, he sets the scale for the way the music is done, so that you get this sense of the grandeur of the fullness of the orchestration with something like a piccolo. So you have these little close-up notes that give you a sense of the scale by which you can feel what is magnificent in the overall musical composition. For the telling of a story, these kinds of themes that you see over and over and over again will be things like a genesis for a story. What sets you in the beginning of the story? What is the enclosure, the garden that sets the scale for the story? There's something that displaces you from this event. In this case, I'm calling it deluge. And there are numerous ways in which deluge happens in human life. Because I'm referring to East Texas as the Orient of Texas, Orient has a double meaning for us. It's a place that we've hidden apart, as in the old world, where the Orient actually isolated itself, walled itself off from the rest of the world, to become an insular and hidden place. Or Orient is the means by which we set a point on the earth, and that is where we gain our sense of direction for our future, for our growth, for what we do with our own lives. Contradiction. We have stated goals and things that we believe, and yet what we do with ourselves, with our lives and everything, can often fly in the face of that. Humility, recognizing what we've just done. Isolation, the very fact that we are set apart in this region and have been hidden away in terms of our association with what Texas thinks of itself, what everybody else thinks of Texas. We're a kind of hidden place in Texas, the true heart of Texas, if you ask me. Grief, that time is passing and the things that we hold dear, the things and the people we hold dear, are passing away. We lose these things. We try to hold on to them. That's central to my motivation to painting. But it's also central to the way we think in terms of the world around us. I've made a special point of what in biblical terms is called the Nephilim, the ancient ones, the ones that were swept away by the deluge. And in this sense, it would be a reference to the ancient peoples. My people, the people I know, the connections that I have with the land and with this space, and how it helps me to understand what the rest of the people around me are like. Life cycles, which when you tie grief and my people together, there's a lot of that. You start off in your life in that initial state. You think you need to get away from something, you go away, you're lost, you come back. And then you find yourself at home in what you now understand, looking back, as a kind of a holy land. And that's Holy Land is another of those themes. And then image of God. For me, the creative process is me encountering the universe. And I personally think that basically all human self-awareness comes down to us being able to take our image of our own mind and set it in at an interface with something that we examine. That can be anything outside of ourselves. In this case, it can be the room and the computer and the people to whom I speak. It can be the idea that I'm facing. In this case, trying to explore what it is that motivated me to write a book. It can be even me setting a barrier against myself and examining myself and finding that there is less of me I know than you would assume I would know. So, image of God is partly us looking into that barrier between us and the rest of the world in an effort to find ourselves. So that's a theme you never get completely taken care of, but it's in there. So those are the basic themes behind the book, and I wanted to uh, give this brief introduction to that idea in what the index will be about. I'm Lee Jameson. Thank you so much for watching.